Hi there. I'm Judith Royle, and here we are in Sedona, facing 2 days of rain. Oh joy, oh rapture. But it's not freezing, and it's not snow. So today, we're going to talk about something different. But I thought for everybody else, maybe who hasn't watched, I thought I'd have a little review. So if you remember, we were talking about core wounds. And core wounds come in with our soul's origination. They're consistent across lifetimes. And so each lifetime is an opportunity to peel those layers of the core wound. So it's not as if we can just heal the core wound and say, I'm cured. It just means that we have peeled back another layer. And the first time that we talked about the core wounds, we talked about betrayal. And as you know, we all vibrate at a certain frequency. And so when you have the core wound of betrayal, and mind you, it's always something we've done to ourselves first. So it's not always the fact that it's something done to us. So we carry a certain vibrational frequency. And we carry, with the core wound of betrayal, we carry the vibe that is almost saying to people, here's the spot right here in my back. Why don't you stab me in the back now while you've got a good aim? So betrayal is all about watching for the signs before that event happens, to be discerning as to who you have in your energy field. There's all kinds of factors, but it's really important to be able to determine when that is something you need to take a look at, that it's maybe gone over the edge a bit. The next one we talked about was abandonment. And this is the feeling that you're just going to sit back and watch. You're not going to get too involved because they're just going to leave me anyways. And so again, discernment is used in any of our taking a look at ourselves. And to see what we need to change and maybe how we need to embrace that a little bit better. So for those of you that are watching, would you please let me know where you're from so we can... Oh, Megan's here. Hi, Megan. And if you have any questions, please list them in the side column there. I'd love to hear from you. So today we're going to talk about injustice. And injustice is either real or perceived misfortunes. And remember, everything is perception. It's how we see it. So a misfortune is something that you hold as being not fair. And when you accumulate those, they're called grudges. So if you, and we all carry them, there's not any of us that can sort of let it go and say, oh, well, we do carry grudges. But for those who sort of go that nth degree more, they have their grudges itemized and cataloged. They can go back to the exact day, year, and time that this person was not fair to them or this event occurred. And so their common language that they use every day is, nothing turns out for me. Nothing goes right for me. Everything is just really unfair. So it's that sort of throw up your hands in the air. Nothing's fair, so why do I bother trying? And of course, as I said, we all go through times like that. And so the more we play that story in our heads, the more hopeless we become, and actually the more enraged we become. So I'm thinking now, as I was thinking about this before we went live, I was thinking about, must be 40 years ago. I think I was a vice principal at the time, and I was shortlisted to become a principal. And I had a superintendent that I just adored. He was my mentor, and heaven only knows if you were a female in the system in those days, you needed a mentor. And so he had come back to the office one day, and he shared something that he had heard about me. And it was something personal. And for the life of me, I can't even remember what it is now. But at the time, I was incensed, I was infuriated, and how dare they, and that's not fair. And I said, well, that's their problem. And he looked at me in the eye and he said, no, it's not their problem, it's your problem. You better sort it out if you want to become a principal. So I thought about that, and I can't really say whether I wanted to be principal more, so I got over it, or I thought to myself, I really respect this man and the advice he's given me in the past. I have to trust him now and figure out a way of how I can undo that wrong. So making steps towards letting go of our grudges starts with trust. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way tomorrow. And we really have to be careful about how we hold on to these grudges, because it leads to self-pity. Poor me. And the more you poor me, the more dejected you become, and you get on this hamster wheel, and it starts going around and around. And soon enough, not only will nobody else want to be around you, but you don't want to be around you. So it's so easy to get into this victimhood mentality, especially when the event is fresh. And after all, we're human. And so it's normal to just sort of sit in it. That's okay. It's just not too long. Now, let's see, we've got a question here. Oh, hi, Magali. Now, actually, this is a good question. The question is, do you have to clear in each and every grudge, or is it enough just to let go of the energy of grudgement in general? If you have a core wound that is basically injustice, so you see that anything that doesn't go your way is unfair or it's unjust, then it is something that you need to take a look at, maybe grudge by grudge, because after all, you've got this catalog of all these grudges. And I'll bet you had certain members of the family remind you of something that you did when you were a kid, and they've never forgotten about it. And they will never let that go. But the thing is, the more we hold on, the more we hold ourselves back. And really, we're using more energy in the long run by spinning this wheel of dejection, rage, self-pity, whatever you want to call it. And you often see this in groups when you're chatting. You might be talking about a certain topic that everybody agrees, and in Newfoundland we use an expression, well, that's a sin. It just means that it's not fair. But then you have the one person in the group that has the sword of truth and I'm going to correct this. This is just not fair. And they will go to any lengths to shift that. So people who get involved in picketing or protesting and take that to the nth degree, quite often they're carrying that core wound of injustice. Are there any other questions out there? Megan, what about you? We always have great discussions, Megan and I, when she's home. And actually, we've taken a simple discussion and we've turned it into a 2-hour conversation. So those are the things that we really like to get our teeth into, because they're learning experiences for both of us. So with that, I thought maybe I would talk a bit about what's coming up in the future. I'm really excited because I had a conference with Celia this morning. Celia is a music and songwriter, and she was in Newfoundland last year for our retreat, Come Home to Your Heart, and she sang all her way up and down the southern shore. And this time she's coming back, and she's going to be in St. John's at the Rocket Bakery, upstairs. I think it's called the Orbit Room. So we'll get the promos out for that soon, but we're really excited we were finally able to batten the hatches down on that. This is another good question that's just come up. whenever you're in a conversation with someone and you're talking about a certain subject, and you can tell a lot by just watching someone's body language, and you can see their back kind of go up, and you sense that maybe they have a grudge that they're carrying, but you, for the life of you, you have no idea what it is. And quite often these grudges are very small, but we make them bigger because when you start adding them all up together, each time you feel that something's not fair, it triggers that point when way back when the first grudge became apparent. Sometimes you just have to say, I sense that there's something not quite right here. Is there something that we need to talk about? So just confronting it in an easy kind of way is maybe the best way. It depends on the relationship you have with someone. And if the relationship is not what you would maybe an acquaintance, then you'd have to be careful how you approach that, because how you would talk to somebody that you are mentoring is a whole lot different than how you might be talking to someone you hardly know. For example, when I'm a mentor and a teacher to someone, that's my job, is to point something out. Are you carrying a grudge? And what are you going to do about it? That's what we as mentors do. And what I expect of my mentor is to call me on my stuff. And so that's one of the things that you can do. And sometimes if somebody is carrying a grudge and you hear about it, and there's nothing that you can do about it, it's just is what it is, then that's the way you have to look at it. It is what it is, and you just have to let that go and let that person sort it out for themselves. And usually it'll sort itself out over a number of years, unless they're the kind of person that, like I said, holds on to things for years and years and years. And obviously I hadn't forgotten about my superintendent. That was 40 years ago. So we do hold on to some stuff that we really aren't aware of until somebody brings it up. For example, when I was getting ready for today, I hadn't thought about that scenario, my goodness, for years and years. But when you're thinking on a certain topic and asking yourself, well, what do I know that, or what have I experienced that can relate to that? It's amazing how many grudges you do hold that you're not aware of. And so I'm going to just remind you that on March 20th, we have our full moon meditation, and we'll be doing that in person here as well as online. So if you want to join us, please do. It's lovely to blend the two groups together, or any group together. We also have on the Mother's Day weekend, on the Friday evening and the Saturday, medium to large, and that is a workshop, day and a half, evening and all day workshop on enhancing your mediumship skills. And then of course we have level 3 on May 25th and 26th. And in June, on June 11th, that weekend of the 11th, we'll be doing level 2. And we're working really hard to get Soul Genesis into modules that we can offer online. That's coming up in the future. So, and you'll love this. You know, I love to tell stories. Remember yesterday I sent out flyers about the time change and how Arizona doesn't change their time. It remains the same, reminding everybody about it. Guess who forgot today? Thank goodness somebody had reminded me that I had to go an hour earlier. So there you go. It's a good job I have people holding my space. Anyways, with that, thank you for joining me. And if you would like to continue the conversation, we did last week. We had some really good chats back and forth after the FB Live. So please join in afterwards as well. And with that, I shall say, from my heart to yours, bye.